What's up, data transformers? Welcome to the Data Career Show, the show where we watch analytics engineers, data analysts, and data scientists transform their career. Today, we are talking to a 15-year data pro who's worked in education, health, online gaming, insurance, mining, and resources. He's an avid practitioner of data product thinking. He loves translating complex products and concepts into simple narratives, which has put him center stage as a keynote speaker. And now he offers that knowledge and experience to a broader audience in his first book, coming soon. We're going to talk about it. The working title is Effective Data Products. And this dude still skateboards better than his kids. That's not going to last much long. I got to tell you, please help me welcome the Tony Hawk of the data world, the second most famous Ash in the world, next to Ash from Pokemon, Ash Smith. What's up, Ash?
Thanks for having the show, Bolaji.
This is great. We've been chatting in Slack for a while. I'm very excited that we finally get to have the conversation. You have had a fascinating career thus far, Ash. I'm going to want to unpack data platforms, what those are, and how you became obsessed with them. But we got to start with the skateboarding, man. Dude, what are you doing? You gonna break a leg or something?
Skateboarded heaps as a kid, loved it, some of the most favorite times of my life, and now I have two kids and they asked me could they start skateboarding a few years ago. I'm going to go with them. I still enjoy it. I'm fast approaching 40, so it's definitely different what it used to be, but you're only as old as you feel, right?
Man, that is too precious. Skateboarding with your girls. So how old are your girls right now?
8 and 10.
8 and 10. This is phenomenal. I'm hoping you can hold off the day where it's no longer cool to skateboard with dad as long as possible.
You'd be surprised how many dads are still out there. We always have like a gentle nod to each other. We're still out here having fun. Yeah, it's good fun. I still try to do it with them as much as I can while I can.
That is amazing, Ash. So Ash, I want to go a little bit into where you are from. You know, we were having the conversation about where I live in North Carolina, USA. You've actually visited before, and you are just down the road from North Carolina. Where is home for you?
I'm not down the road from North Carolina, Bolaji. I'm in Perth, Western Australia, but I have made it out to North Carolina and Charlotte twice. Really enjoyed it there. Was introduced to hush puppies, which is a unique experience when you think you're about to eat a chicken nugget and you get, I believe, like a spiced deep fried dough, I think it is.
They're delicious.
They're okay. You know,
That's very impressive, though. You really submerge yourself into the local culture here in North Carolina, so that's great. You were telling me that Perth is perhaps one of the most isolated cities in the world.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we're extremely disconnected from the world. We're nicknamed WA, and it's wait a while. We don't usually get a lot of big line music festivals or anything here. They typically stay on the East Coast. But no, it's a beautiful city. We're blessed with white beaches, just the coast, and 35 hours from Perth to Charlotte. So it's really far to get anywhere that way.
Wait a while. Well, we're not going to have people wait a while to get into the good stuff about Ash Smith. Ash, we want to hear your origin story. Every Ash we know has a good origin story. My kids they loved you in Pokemon, by the way. Every Ash has a good origin.
I've never watched it. So
oh, you got to be kidding. Ash is a great character. You got to check him out. You got to check him out. Let's orient people with where you are right now. So what's your current job title?
My current job title is manager of data at a mining company here in Australia, which is a global mining company. So we've got mines in like Australia, America, Colombia, South America. We're everywhere. So the data challenges we face are a little bit different to other companies, like no power sometimes when getting data. But my role is really sitting across a governance team, a data platform team, also a team that actually builds data products, which delivers value to the business. Yeah, so quite
this is pretty wild, Ash.
Spread, yeah.
How in the world? Mining. Dude, do you do any regular jobs ever? You've been in online gaming. You've worked in education and health. So I'm intrigued as to some of the unique data challenges that we're going to get to unpack
Yeah,
considering
sure.
that you've worked in mining, have you experienced differences from a data ecosystem, a data platform perspective across all these different industries that you've experienced? Education, health, online gaming, insurance, and now mining. Has it been
Yeah.
the same or are there unique differences?
No, there's definitely differences. I mean, going back to say health, a lot of the laws there are a lot different to say online gaming or insurance or mining. So a lot of that infrastructure data was all on-prem, right? Like before the age of AWS and Azure. And insurance, as an example, extremely heavily regulated by
Okay.
Australian. It's called APRA, which is they regulate what we can do. So a lot of the tool choices we had were we had to meet their regulations. Otherwise, you
Okay.
couldn't use it. Whereas online gaming, a little bit less scrutiny.
Let's go wild, baby. No governance.
Yeah, definitely still governance for anyone listening from previous employers.
Disclaimer.
Definitely had to
There is
comply with
governance.
certain state laws in North America
Yes.
on that.
Yes.
GDPR was coming in back then as
Yeah.
well. So a lot
Yeah.
of technology choices were by that. The biggest difference is the online gaming company, that was a company startup that was born in the cloud, right? So getting the data is
Okay.
just, a lot more achievable, right? Because the database is in
Okay.
the cloud, you just go speak to another team. Where in mining, it's, sometimes it could take you weeks to find out who owns this data. Like, where even is it? Like, can we get
Wow.
access to it? And is it reliable because it's in a country that may lose its power unreliably? So there's a lot of unique
Wow.
challenges working in those different areas. But, that's what makes the job interesting. And mining's big in Perth. It's like Houston in Texas. It's a mining town. So
Wow.
there's lots of people to speak to and on meetups and stuff in Perth to share war stories.
Really interesting. This is great. So, Ash, I love to walk through the resume or the LinkedIn profile to help people visualize some of your more recent jobs. We want to look at how you traversed these different job positions. Could you walk us through, Ash, how you traversed from being a solutions analyst at Fiona Stanley Hospital, part of the BT group, and made your way all the way to mining at South 32?
Yeah, sure. I suppose like a lot of people, they don't know exactly how they got here, right? Careers in itself are very organic, but I actually started out doing network engineering. Networks, I hate it. No offense to the network engineers out there, but yeah, I fell into data just by chance, really. I was given a job at a university and a piece of paper, and it was, this is what I want you to follow every day, every week, every month. And my mindset's very, I suppose, analytical and curious. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to automate this. I'm not going to do it. And believe it or not, that was one of my first pipelines I ever built,
Wow.
Yes, on SQL Server, still around today. So for anyone, they're still using SSIS. That's how I started. But a lot of those titles these days, if you were doing that job, it'd probably be called a data engineer, right?
Wow.
But that's just what they called them at the time, systems analyst or systems engineer. Or what. But yeah, I was always very curious in those roles, to why is this happening? How can I sort of get close to the business to understand, like, what's the impact? Fiona Stanley in particular was a hospital here in Perth, and we had a clean canvas, essentially. We got to choose all the technology and everything, and that even meant the design of, like, the warehouses, the integrations, like, the reports, everything. And that was the job which got me a role in the Bay Area.
Interesting.
But yeah, same. I just continued being curious, really diving into the technology and working with the business. And I'm quite an extrovert, and I'm always wanting to talk to the business and understand how I can help them, which I think has been my differentiator.
Wow.
It was only until I got a job at the online gaming company, which is based in Perth called VGW, where I really discovered what analytics was, big data was, data scientists were, and transition from, databases to Parquet. And I really just lent into everything and consumed everything, learnt everything, went home, studied, and wanted to know everything about everything. It was amazing, and just kept learning. And the role I was in the middle of product. engineering and the data science team. And my role was really to bring them together and deliver a product. And that's how I fell into leadership in that sense, bringing people together to convey a message. And then from that point on, that was a pivotal point in my career where I really lent into leadership, started to get passion in seeing, big outcomes and, being involved in orchestrating that and working and building amazing teams. Yeah.
Online gaming is the first time where officially you actually had data in your title. You were working on data platforms and machine learning. So how did you break into that position?
It took me 2 goes to get into the company. It's called VGW. Applied for an original role, was unsuccessful, which is quite fortunate in hindsight. And then another role came on. It was just in the data and analytics team. They wanted someone there that understood the data side, but also knew how to speak to the business, essentially. I went in, gave it my best, was successful, and joined like an amazing data team that I'm still friends with some of the people now, and lucky enough they work with me now as well in my new team at the mining company.
That's special. I love the persistence there, Ash, and it reminds me of this is several years ago. I grew up a Disney fan. Quick rabbit hole for the listeners. Please indulge me. But I grew up a Disney fan. My parents took myself and my siblings to Disney World. I grew up in Nigeria. They flew us to Orlando, Florida, in the U.S. and we went to Disney World for 3 days. I was 10 years old. Mind was blown. So growing up, I was like, I'd love to write a Disney movie one day. As Pixar came along, I'd love to work for Pixar. So I actually applied to jobs at Pixar back in the day. And I was applying to everything, Ash. I'm talking about like copy machine, like coffee person, like what do you need? I'll do it. I was getting no response at all. I actually emailed the head of HR and I was like, you don't know me, but we're going to be coworkers soon. So this is real. This is real. And she responded. She was kind enough to respond. Like, okay, I love your enthusiasm. Good luck, buddy. I didn't get a call back. I didn't get an interview. So I'm glad your story had a happy ending. Pixar, if you're out there, man.
Yeah. I actually wanted to be an animator when I was in high school.
No.
Yeah. Until I found out that sometimes some animation jobs are all you do is Rust or clouds. Yeah.
Wow. Are you
It's
kidding?
not what I thought, where you could just be involved in the entire movie. So that was the end of my Pixar career or animation.
Man.
Yeah.
Ash's hopes and dreams, young Ash. I want to talk about young Ash actually, because I found it fascinating. I'm new to the data world, but in having these conversations, I'm learning that a lot of people didn't necessarily study data in university, but there's usually a thread. There's usually a pattern, a habit somewhere in the early days that indicated that kid is different. When did you know that you first loved patterns and data and analysis?
I think it was in high school when I just had a web development class and I was the only one in the class that enjoyed it. I'd just go home and learn how to build websites, and for my friends out there that started programming in PHP and MySQL like that, I just started programming.
Yes. And then,
every data person around my age, we didn't have master data science or data engineering like online academies or anything. I think they were all just put in a job where there was, solve this problem, and they just had to learn SQL or just figure it out essentially. And then they just this is actually really fun. Or it's satisfying, and then data world took off, and a lot of people still do it, I guess, me included. And also in the introduction of AI in the last couple of years, people have just been more and more in the front. Just talking to a bunch of young people last night, and they're like, I want to get into data or cyber. Seems to be the 2 industries most young people want to get into, which is great.
How about that? It's cool now, folks. It's cool with the kids. I'd love to understand, Ash, you talked a moment ago about at that first position at VGW, the online gaming company, how you were put at this intersection of data science, product, and data
Yeah.
engineering, right? And so I love to ask people where it's almost like the Harry Potter, the sorting hat, where it's like, which group do you fit in? Would you categorize yourself as a data engineer, data scientist, analyst, or analytics engineer? How do you think about yourself?
More.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
Yeah, not so much these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I like to think about the juxtaposition between personality and job role. And, this is a very broad brush, simplistic look at it. But at times, you might think there could be a correlation between those of us who are a bit more introverted with the back office type skills, the data engineering skills. Whereas you might think for those who are a bit more outgoing, extroverted, maybe they perform more data analysis, being closer to the business, the stakeholder. But you're an extrovert who loves backroom work. Like, is anything straightforward about you at all, Ash?
Data teams. I'm a big.
No. I'm curious though. Let's actually get into this.
Yeah, let's do
because
it.
we've hinted at it a couple of times right now. This concept of data products. I'll admit I hadn't heard that term prior to interacting with you, Ash. I'd love to let's unpack it. So you're explaining data products to your daughters. How would you break it down? They're likely smarter than I am anyway, but how would you break it down to an 8 or 10-year-old skateboarder? What are data products, Dad?
It's quite funny you asked. There was a conference just a few weeks ago, Data Day, Texas. I did not go, but listening to some other podcasts, and they actually had a round circle all trying to break down, like, what is the definition? So you could ask probably 10 people on the street what's their definition, and you'll get a different answer. Like, my definition, not verbatim, it's really an engineer or an analyst or anything applying a product mindset, so putting the business first, to develop, something valuable that uses data, essentially. So what it's not a data product, right? I'll use a report as an example. Building a report in a silo and then just giving it to the business and saying, here's what I built for you. My view, there's no product mindset that's been applied to that and may not deliver any value. So in the biggest nutshell, that's what it is. And it's reusable. Like, other people in the business can use it. It's part of an ecosystem. It's a product and it evolves over time, essentially, just like a product.
This is pretty cool. So from what I'm hearing from you, Ash, this is a term that has been around for a little bit. It was popularized by the Data Mesh book. I wonder how broadly this approach is being practiced. The fact that you're writing a book about effective data products suggests there's still additional productivity that data professionals can find in adopting this approach. So how are people doing it today, and how could they evolve their approach to be more product oriented?
I heard an analogy on another podcast today where it was like, people are doing it, the roads are there, but there's no maps on how to traverse it. I was like, that makes sense. It's a good analogy. I'm going to pinch that. Totally forgot your name who said that, but thank you. So I find that, with AI, sort of coming out there, it's putting a lot of pressure on data teams to deliver more values.
Wow.
And the best way they can do that is there's a consistent framework that, the whole team looks to. But yeah, it's going to be a journey. There's always a number thrown out there, Bolaji, that 80% of data projects fail. I hope in 10 years' time, it's not that high.
So assuming it's not even specifically 80%, but I'm guessing the maybe common wisdom is that it's a high percentage of data that fail. Why is that?
The biggest reason, like, failure is, a subjective term, right? It could be technical failure, business failure, but let's say failure is in, like, didn't deliver the expected value, right?
Fair, yeah.
Data teams, software engineers, they build things that they think that the business wants, and they haven't listened to them what the actual problems are. But again, there's a big laundry list of problems. Could be, shaky foundations, no governance, bad data. Like, there's so many, I suppose, reasons, and they're probably all different at every single company. Broken records, right? We say the same things over and over and over again. I suppose, quoting Joe Reese here, it's like, we have center stage here. The whole world's looking at us with AI. Are we going to get it right this time? Right? Like, I hope so. Yeah. I hope we're not still
No
wrestling
pressure.
the same problems in 10 years.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. So, okay, let's switch gears a little bit, Ash. I'd love to unpack what your day to day looks like. Let's talk through, first of all, how much of your time is spent on maintenance type stuff versus building new features versus reactive troubleshooting.
Yeah, sure. I'll speak high level because as I was joking around before, personally, not so much on the tools anymore. Like I'm no longer submitting PRs, to our repos to fix pipelines or anything. No, we've got amazing teams where we work right now. We definitely spend our fair amount of time, fixing things, incidents that come through the business. And that could be anything from broken pipelines, broken reports, you name it. But we've also got a data products. We also apply that mindset to the platform itself. We want to build a platform that, everyone in the company can use, build on. That flywheel effect of value. How can we continuously deliver value to the business? And then we also have the teams that are obviously building the data products. And that's where I spend at least a lot of my time lately, figuring out, what are the biggest problems in the company that we can focus our time on and deliver the most value. Weirdly enough, a lot of my problems is around the culture and teams and people side, bringing everyone together essentially, which is quite new to me in the last couple of years, but quite enjoy it. But center stage the whole time is always data in that sense, right? Can't get rid of it in that sense and still enjoy it.
Yeah, that's helpful. So how is your data team set up currently today?
We've got a platform team, a governance team, and a data product team. So they all have their key accountabilities in that sense. We try to scale that out globally as well. And each data product team can essentially just develop on their own. Something, again, picked up from industry. We just, the platforms teams and the governance teams really just set guardrails for all those teams to stay within so we can make sure everything we're building is governed and we don't add to that graveyard of analytics projects out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a good idea of what type of data professional you are, how you're operating at South 32, this mining company in Perth. We now want to talk through specific projects that you've done. And we want to talk about some of the successes, but first, with any movie, we got to start with the disasters. We got to go down before we can climb up to the peak of the mountain. Talk through an example of a technical problem you've had to work through that was gnarly or difficult to resolve.
Yeah, well, I remember years ago, I was at work and I thought I was working in the development environment, but I was actually in production and just dropped the entire database. Yeah. I just sat there for like a few minutes staring at my screen, waiting for it to just reappear, essentially. Yeah, that was fun, speaking to my boss.
Hope is not a strategy, Ash.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't go into too much of the specifics on the actual project itself, but high level on some of the projects I think that I'm proud of is we had data silos everywhere through the whole company. One of our big things we wanted to do was consolidate these silos through the whole company because discovering data and getting value from this data was really tricky. What's the right data? What's the wrong data? No one knew, our team included. So we did a lot of work to bring all that together, make sure it was governed, make sure it was trustworthy. We implemented a data catalog to enable the business to sort of discover that data like easy. And there's some big wins that came out of that. And we've just been building off that success over and over again. And what I thought when I first started there is there wasn't an easy way to find data. Our team now is that sort of team. If you need something, done or you want to look for data, come to our team or at least the platform to build on it, which, I'm super proud of. And the team as well.
That's great, Ash. I would love to gain some insight into how you personally handle things like burnout, stress, and not just that, maybe unrealistic expectation. I mean, there are going to be times when you've been the data expert, the data professional, or even just the coordinator between all these different data teams. People are looking to you for answers that maybe you don't have. How do you handle that?
I'm a big believer, if you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer, right? There's nothing wrong with not having the answer to everything. No one does. And that's a big problem. I've seen a lot of people on LinkedIn been posting lately saying comments like January already, and yeah, it sucks, right? But I'm really fortunate that I work for a company that, safety, both physical and mental, is at the forefront. So we're always being mindful of how hard people are working, checking in with people like all the time, and building that psychological safety in the team where, like, if you are overworked or you are stressed or burnt out, that there's always someone you can, come to. And in that case, it's me, and I'll help them prioritize essentially and work to the business. But it all comes down, to my opinion, just collaborative prioritization to figure out, if we can only work on 3 things right now, what are they? We can't do them all. Yeah. So it's a people problem, right, Bolaji? Like, you can't leave data engineers or any engineers that matter to solve everything at once. It's a short, fast way for them to quit. Yeah.
There's a lot of wisdom there, Ash. This is not unique to data professionals. This is something that every professional probably has to deal with. Unrealistic expectations, or sometimes the way I see it, people as bosses or managers or executives, they might have a perspective from higher up in the organization. They might be facing certain pressures that we're not aware of at our level, and so their requests might seem unreasonable to us. But I love that term you just shared, Ash, collaborative prioritization. We have to prioritize our mental health. We also have to prioritize what the business is trying to accomplish. But if we prioritize on our own, then like management might be prioritizing on their own without prioritizing our mental health. We need to bring those two together.
Yeah, definitely.
So we can move forward in a healthy fashion.
No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, can't do it in a silo. And the amount of pressure that's been put on data teams and data engineers these days is intense. The market, you learn a new tool last month or last year, another one comes out, you got to learn that one. So, I mean, I think people enter technology in general knowing that, not just data, that it's a fast, moving industry. I suppose some people enjoy it and like the hustle, but you always got to look after yourself in that sense and your mental health to make sure you're not burning yourself out.
Yeah. Go skateboarding.
Do anything. Go for a walk. Go to the gym. Have a break. Yeah, enjoy life.
Write a Disney movie in your free time. I wonder though, Ash. This going back to this concept of data products. I wanna put that next to the challenge that data professionals face, where they find themselves fulfilling ad hoc requests on a consistent basis. So as opposed to creating reusable data solutions and data products, they're having to react to all these incoming requests. I need this report. I need this view. I need that. Surely that could contribute to more stress and burnout than building something once that the stakeholder can then use in a self-service fashion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see people complaining about this a lot online, right? I've definitely worked at places where they have it. Some companies refer to them as feature factories or like report factories. They're just continuously pumping. Yeah. Everyone knows that dreaded Slack message where it's like, hey, can you figure this out for me? But look, I don't think that's, a problem, a data individual can solve on their own. That's a cultural problem.
Wow.
Are those reports even being used? Are they getting the value of those reports? It's not just reports, right? It could be in the data science world, like the AI world. I certainly believe there's always going to be one person or organization that needs to kind of spearhead that change and get them to start rethinking, do we need 20 reports or do we need one, if that makes sense? So I don't think it's a cultural change to change that constant requests, but, it's still out there. I do think data products can change that mentality. Yeah. So the data team spends time with the business. Yeah. I can't remember who told me this, but it's like there's 2 ways data projects can go, right? So imagine an event planner, right, that plans an event, has the event's completed, and then goes to the data team and says, can you look at the data from the event for me and tell me how successful it was? Whereas opposed to the product thinking mindset would be, hey, data team, can you help me plan this event? So they're there for the whole job. They can contribute to it, can finish it, and then when the next event comes, they can improves, if that makes sense. So
Wow.
that's a good analogy I always like to share to people.
Yeah, two very, very different scenarios. I like that a
Exactly.
lot.
Yeah. It's
I
pretty
like that
easy
a
to
lot.
pick which one's better, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even for the event planner, honestly,
Yeah.
because in the first scenario, they're coming to you hoping for answers you might not be able to provide because you hadn't laid the data foundation, you hadn't done the framework. I like that. I like that. Let's talk about some happy times. We've been listening to data therapy with Ash Smith. It's a data therapy session, group therapy. Yes. We need some happy thoughts. We need some happy stories. Ash, could you tell us a story of a project you're proud of?
Oh, project that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
I might go back to the online gaming company.
Ooh.
That was again, amazing place to work, and there was a lot of collaboration, I suppose, with like product teams, again, engineering teams, and data science teams, but we're all kind of like figuring out how to work with each other. Right.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's a non-technical problem, but super important. And one of the projects we were working on was a game recommendation engine. Right. So we had to bring 3 teams together for that. Engineering, which had to do some infrastructure work, which in those times for the machine learning people that may be listening in, a lot of the technology like feature stores and that didn't exist back then. The teams there, which were amazing, built all that stuff, worked with I suppose the product teams and the data science teams who like built the models, and collaboratively, again, back to that trio analogy, like we shipped it to production and it was insanely successful. I don't know if it's still in production now because it's been many years since I've been there, but I think that was the project for me that was like, I love technical, but I also like being part of, the project and bringing people together and creating, big business impact, if that makes sense. So it's like, how can I do that more? How can I create a blueprint for that? And I suppose that's what I've been hunting for the last while, that repeatable, successful blueprint, which I don't actually even think the industry has it yet. If I'm wrong, please hit me up on LinkedIn and send it to me.
That's wild. That's why
it's super exciting.
I think for an extrovert, you're a pretty introspective guy. I love how you're able to sort of look back and recognize some of the patterns across these different projects that you've done in different industries. And I found it really valuable as a professional to recognize these are the things that I tend to like in work environments, in work that I do. The industry could be different. The company profile could be different. But these are the things that tend to work for me. It's where I'm able to express my strengths. My strengths are celebrated, not tolerated. So it feels like you sort of found your niche in data projects.
I think so. I really love like working with people, and broken record now, I keep saying delivering business impact. But just like, building teams, like working closely with like super intelligent people, like day in, day in. And
Oh, you don't have to brag on me like that. You're embarrassing me.
Yeah. And if someone asks me, what is one core skill that, any data person should have, doesn't matter what hat they're wearing, is just always being curious, right? And focusing on the foundations. And even though I have moved more into, I suppose, a managerial role, I haven't forgotten what it's like to be curious from the business side, the technical side. And that's probably the cornerstone that I just continue pushing on myself and like, new people in the team. Always ask questions. Yeah.
No, that's really helpful. And I think as people are thinking about how they navigate their career, maybe how they look for what they can get out of their current position, as well as what type of positions they may want to orient themselves to next, what you're sharing here could be really helpful to them. I would like to ask you then, as we're talking about successes, whether there have been any key mentors or influences in your career journey, and if so, what you learned from them along the way.
It's a really good question. And it's actually the second time someone's asked me that question in the last couple of weeks, believe it or not. So I didn't have a good answer then, but I've never really had an official mentor, I suppose, with that label. Weirdly enough, I've just became a mentor for a PhD doctorate right now, trying to get out of academia, but that's another story in itself. But no, I've never had a mentor itself, but I've always been, I suppose, confident enough and keen enough to just ask as many questions around the smartest people in the room as I can. I've had some amazing bosses, I suppose, in the past, and I suppose I think I am emotionally intelligent enough to, ask them, I don't understand something, can you teach me, and understand everyone else's strengths around me, and like really lean into that, to help me. That silly saying, maybe not silly, surround yourself with people, who you want to become. So if I'm stuck on something or want to learn it, I seek out those people, I guess. Yeah. So I think that's the best way to learn, to be honest.
Yeah. No, there's a level of self-awareness in your approach that I really do appreciate and value. None of us is good at everything. But hang on now. We live in the IG era. Okay, Ash? Like, we're all supposed to just put out our highlights and hide those lowlights. We've all to a certain extent done it, whether it's on our resumes or on LinkedIn, the LinkedIn influencers and such. And sometimes I think people feel vulnerable in asking for help in the work environment. They might feel that they're going to be judged. Have you run into that? Have you dealt with that?
I think people will be surprised at how helpful other people want to be, right? Sure, the person that you reached out to at Pixar wasn't super helpful.
She didn't shoot me down, to be fair.
Yeah,
just said you're totally unqualified.
If you seek out, free work or like free consulting and stuff from, people online or anything like that, they probably are going to shut you down in that sense. But I think most people out there are really genuine. And if you ask them questions, they're going to lean into it if it comes from a good place, right? Like me included. I'm probably not going to join that teleconference call at 1 a.m. for a free Yeti cup, but everyone gets that post, right? But I think most people out there are really genuine and interested in helping each other. At least that's what I like to think.
Yes. I want to lean into this, Ash, because I think this could actually help a lot of people. There are folks who maybe are looking for a job currently, and just as an example, and they are in that mode. They're almost in that survival mode. They're almost in that desperation mode where they need help. That can be a tough time to make the ask, because and I'd love your take on this, but my take on it is that if that's the point when you're starting to reach out to people and collaborate and ask questions, you're in such a place of need that sort of bleeds through, and people do want to help. If they already have a relationship with you, they're going to bend over backwards to try to help you find a job. But if they're strangers, I think that's where it can be tough. If Ash, for example, is receiving cold DMs or emails saying, hey, I'm an analytics engineer, I'm looking for this, that, and the other type of position, there isn't that relationship yet. But on the other hand, if a young analytics engineer is reaching out to Ash, hey, I saw that you did this interview with this really, really smart interviewer. Who was that guy? Okay, no, that's an aside. But I saw you have this great experience in online gaming or health or mining. I'm fascinated. Would you mind if I asked a few questions? Ash might sense that, okay, this person isn't hitting me up for a job. Yeah, I could take 2 minutes or 5 minutes and answer a few questions. Now that person has an open line of communication with Ash. They could talk over time. And then if 6 months down the line, they're like, hey, I happen to be looking for something. Do you know of anything? They already have a little bit of a relationship. I'd love your take on this whole setup.
No, that was great. Do you have a background in marketing? Yeah.
I do dabble, I used to apply to Pixar. I can't say I used to work for Pixar. I once applied to Pixar.
No, I totally agree, right? And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But no, I totally agree. Networking's king. It's nothing to do with data again or anything. So if you are starting out in your career or you're in an unfortunate position where you've lost your job, like a lot of people don't, I think, consider networking important enough. I'm really lucky. I've had a lot of good things happen to me in life purely from networking,
Wow.
Put myself out there, going to small meetups, working my way up to conferences, just talking to people. A lot of other people might go, I don't like doing that. I didn't really like it much either at first myself, but, you just get out there and lots of good things can happen. And for anyone that knows me, I'm a big fan of sayings and analogies, but, it's it's not luck, right? It's preparation meets opportunity, right? So they're preparing themselves and they're putting themselves in positions where if a job pops up, you're like, remember that guy, like, or girl that reached out to me on LinkedIn? You know, they were so passionate, you know, I can really lean into that. Yeah, not cold sales. It's personal, you know, in my opinion, but pet hater mode.
No, I love that. That's helpful, Ash. This has been so rich. This has been so good. I want to ask a couple more questions, if I may. Sure. One of those questions is, Ash, how do you measure the impact of your work on a business or organization?
It's a really good question. I'll have to think on this one for a second. I think it depends on the problem that's trying to be solved, right? And again, I keep quoting the internet. I think that highlights that I read too much on LinkedIn, right? There are a lot of teams right saying, oh, data teams aren't delivering enough value, you know, yada, yada, yada. It's almost a meme, right? Is impact like upfront, right? If you ask a technical person in the team, success is everything works, right? You ask the business person and it's like, you know, it was meant to do this and it didn't do it. So there's like misaligned in terms of what like value means. So definitely define what value means when you're building your data product, you know. But also like acknowledging in the business that impact and value is not always money or ROI, right? Like it could be, you know, compliance or regulatory stuff. That's not always seen as impact in the business. So I don't know, you just need to become better data storytellers in the team. And figure out, you know, what's the best way to, you know, sell that message. Well, not sell it, maybe tell that message to people. Yeah. That was a bit of a ramble, but like...
Not at all. And data storytelling is a skill. Some people might inherently be a little bit better at storytelling than others, but to not have that ability to do data storytelling, to not have the ability to push back on our stakeholders and say, what's the business impact you're trying to accomplish? What's the real end result before actually implementing? I feel like all of that, those are learned skills.
No, definitely. And if there's one, even if you're not a good, you know, data storyteller, like I'm not an amazing one myself, but one thing I do myself personally is like, who am I presenting this data to, right? And figuring out like, what do they care about and what language do they speak? I don't mean like whether they're speaking like English or French here, by the way. It's like, do they work in the supply department? Are they in marketing?
That's good.
So like speak in the language that they care about. Don't go in there talking to them about, you know, data science models and stuff. Like
that's good.
Totally interesting, but it's, they won't understand you. So speak the same language, I guess.
Oh, that's rich. That's rich, man. Ash, this has been really good. We're going to have to have you back because we didn't get to go through everything I wanted to go through, but this has been really helpful. It's going to help a lot of data professionals. I would like to ask, we didn't talk much about technology. I'm curious as to how a product like DBT has factored into the work that you've done over the years.
Yep. I have a DBT origin story. I remember, and there's plenty of people out there that have probably done this, but the team that built it, again, they're amazing, but we had Airflow with just SQL everywhere, monolithic everywhere. I believe we were changing it in production. And on the other side, we had super intelligent software engineers who were pushing, you know, CI/CD, version control, Git, and we didn't have any of that, right? And I was like, surely there has to be a way. So I hit the Googles and, you know, started doing a lot of research. And I can't remember the version, but I think I discovered like DBT 0.5 or whatever it was, early versions. Yeah, wow. I think me and another guy on the team, we just mocked up a few POCs in Redshift, and I do believe they're still using it to this day. I've definitely taken the tool with me in every company I've been at since then.
Wow.
And I'm super pumped with the SDF acquisition. I reckon that's gonna, you know, improve like the workflow in the teams where I am now in other companies. So yeah, good acquisition.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
that's really exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Final question. What advice would you give to someone, Ash, aspiring to follow in your footsteps? They're like, I want to work in a mining company in the most remote city in the world. No, I'm just kidding. Like I want to be able to follow a lot of these beats in Ash's career. I want to be able to build effective data products. I want to be able to tell better data stories. What sort of advice would you give to them?
I tell them, in a world that's changing so fast, like focus on the foundations, right? Like it's not going to change. Even like in the world of AI, like I lean into AI, but the foundations are still like a constant. And don't just read technology books. There's plenty of data engineering or analytics books out there. Pick up a few product books. Doesn't necessarily have to be books on data products, besides, my one when it comes out next year, obviously. It goes without saying. But just read general product books. You can learn so much from the vast amount of stuff that our, sister industries have done, like software engineering and that. So, focus on the foundations and just be super curious and network. There's plenty of good conferences and networks out there in all countries. If you're in Australia, there's, Data Enterprise. They got meetups everywhere, and I'm sure America and, Europe and stuff have their own similar ones. So get out there, meet people. Awesome. Well, I've had an amazing conversation.
This has been great, Ash. Really appreciate you. So, folks, we've been talking to Ash Smith, the second most famous Ash in the world after Pokemon. He is the Tony Hawk of the data world. He's passionate about effective data products, and he's currently managing data platforms at South 32, a mining company in Perth, Australia. Ash Smith, this has been fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for the invite.
All right, folks. Thank you for being here for the Data Career Show. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. This show is brought to you by DBT. DBT is the industry standard for data transformation. It allows your team to prepare data for analysis in a way that's centralized, modular, and entirely open, all inside your cloud data platform. The outcome? Consistently dependable analytics for your organization. Now, the DBT community was built for and by data pros. Come hang out and transform with 70,000 of the brightest analytics engineers, data analysts, and data scientists in the world. With DBT, you transform your data. With the DBT community, you transform your data career.